All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a really big challenge in modern software, and it's this. How do you build things fast without, breaking everything in the process? We're going to dive deep into the world of microservices to figure out what separates the ones that bring amazing agility from the ones that just bring chaos. It's a paradox we see all the time. The very architecture that's designed to let teams move independently and super quickly, microservices, can somehow end up creating systems that are incredibly fragile. Where one tiny change can cause a massive system-wide failure. So, what's really going on here? Well, here's the thing. The root of the problem isn't that teams are moving too fast. Not at all. It's that they are unintentionally breaking thousands of tiny, unseen agreements. We're talking about the API contracts that literally hold the entire system together. So we adopt microservices for a great reason, right? To give teams autonomy, to let them innovate and deploy whenever they want. But this amazing freedom creates this hidden web of dependencies. One team's service relies on another's, and that's right where the tension begins.
And man, this shift from a monolith to microservices is a huge deal. We go from this single, predictable unit to a totally distributed system where APIs are no longer just some implementation detail, they become the central nervous system of the entire application.
And of course, this distributed world comes with a whole new class of problems. When every team owns its service, standards can drift apart. But the most dangerous one of all? It's that cascading failure. Because everything is so interconnected, one bad API change can trigger a domino effect, bringing the whole system to a grinding halt.
Look, here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if an API is only used by another team inside your own company, you have to treat it with the same seriousness as a public-facing product. It is a contract, and other teams depend on it. Breaking that contract has very real consequences. Okay, so that leads us right to the solution. And it's not some fancy new piece of technology you can buy, it's a fundamental shift in mindset. We need to stop treating our internal APIs like afterthoughts and start managing them like they are first-class products. Think about it, right? Any product you buy has a formal lifecycle. An API needs the exact same thing. Applying this discipline forces you to think about its purpose, its users, how it's going to change over time, and yeah, even how it's eventually going to be retired. This process is what brings predictability to what can otherwise be a really chaotic environment. All right, so how do we actually do this? How do we take this API as a product idea and make it real? Well, it all comes down to three key pillars that help us govern how we manage change. First things first, we need to know our enemy. And in this world, the enemy has a name, the breaking change. Now, this isn't just any old change. It's a specific kind of modification that forces other teams to drop what they're doing and fix their code. Adding a required field, removing an old one, these are the kinds of things that break the contract and cause all the pain. Okay, so sometimes a breaking change is just going to happen. It's unavoidable. And when it does, you need a versioning strategy. As you can see here, each one comes with some clear trade-offs. Putting v1 in the URL path is probably the most common because it's simple and obvious, but on the other end, media type versioning is what you'd call architecturally pure, but wow, its complexity can be a real headache. The right choice really depends on who your users are. This is where something called semantic versioning, or SEMVer, becomes your best friend. It's basically a shared language to talk about your changes. Using this major.minor.patch format means a team can release tons of bug fixes as patch updates, or new features as minor updates, all without causing any disruption. Only a major version change screams, hey, I broke the contract, which makes it a really deliberate, well-planned event. Now, you know what's even better than managing breaking changes? Not having them in the first place. And that's our second pillar. The absolute best way to evolve an API is to make additive, non-breaking changes. So here, we've just added a new optional status field. Any older client that has no idea this field exists can just ignore it. And guess what? Nothing breaks. It just works. But look, this isn't a one-way street. Compatibility is a partnership. The API provider can do everything right, but if the consumer is brittle, things are still going to break. This is called the tolerant reader pattern. It just means you design your service to only care about the data it needs and to gracefully ignore anything new or unexpected. It's what stops your service from crashing just because another team added a field. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, saying goodbye. Retiring old APIs isn't just about deleting code. It's a managed migration project. You announce it months in advance, you give people clear guides, and you even use brownouts, where you intentionally fail the old API for short periods just to get the attention of anyone who missed the memo. Then, and only then, do you finally shut it down for good.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you enforce all these rules at scale, across dozens, maybe hundreds of teams? You can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. That's where critical infrastructure comes in, the tools that actually make all of this manageable. First up, the API gateway. Just think of it as the bouncer at the front door of your entire system. It handles all the incoming traffic from the outside world, what we call north-south traffic. It's the perfect spot to manage all your version routing and enforce security before a request ever gets near your internal services. Now, a service mesh, on the other hand, lives inside your system. If the gateway is the front door, the service mesh is like the internal command center. It manages that complex, messy web of east-west traffic, all the communication happening between your services, and it handles things like encryption and observability automatically so developers don't have to worry about it. And this is super important. Gateways and meshes are not enemies. They are not competing for the same job. They are perfect partners. The gateway is the guardian of that public-facing business contract. The service mesh manages the messy, internal, operational reality. Together, they let teams innovate like crazy on the inside while maintaining absolute stability on the outside. All right, let's stop talking theory and look at how the big players handle this. Because when you look at the API strategies of major tech companies, you see a perfect reflection of their business models. Let's start with Stripe. What's their business? Moving money. And when you're moving money, the number one thing you absolutely need is trust. For them, a broken API isn't just a bug, it's literally lost revenue. So their versioning is slow, it's deliberate, and it forces developers to explicitly opt into any new versions. It's all about minimizing risk. Now, what about GitHub? Their currency isn't money, it's developer love. They understand their audience appreciates clean architecture, so they use header versioning to keep URLs looking nice. But more importantly, that promise of a 24-month support window for old versions, that's not just a technical detail, that's a massive trust-building exercise with the very community they serve. And then you've got Twilio. Their whole game is to make developers' lives as easy as humanly possible, so their strategy is extreme backwards compatibility. They'll support old APIs for years, making sure that code a developer wrote back in 2015 might still work today. This obsessive focus on an effortless developer experience is their key to winning, even if it means they carry a bit more technical debt than others. So, when it's all said and done, it comes down to this one question that every team has to answer for themselves: how you view your APIs, as just a technical byproduct or as a core product that you cherish. That's what will determine whether you can finally build fast without constantly breaking things. Thanks for watching the Explainer.